It's vital that emissions offsetting is done in the right way, with quality assurance and effective frameworks ensuring best practice in what has become a billion-dollar industry. The International Carbon Reduction and Offset Alliance is the leading voice in the voluntary carbon market. We spoke to its managing director, Andrea Abrahams, to see how it is setting the standards when it comes to carbon offsetting.
Andrea, thank you so much for being with us. A very warm welcome to the programme. Explain for us, what is carbon offsetting and how can organisations use it as part of their toolkit to move towards net zero?
Yeah, so carbon offsets, it can be sometimes a confusing phrase, but it really is a very simple concept where you are, as an individual, as a company, you are investing in a carbon reduction project. That can be a wind farm, it can be renewable energies like wind farms. It can be protecting forests, reforesting areas. So it can be a whole range of types of carbon reduction or removal activities. So a company is setting its net zero strategy, and it is by choice deciding to invest in carbon reduction activities outside of its own supply chain in order to compensate for the emissions that it can't reduce itself.
There's been, obviously, as the market has matured, Andrea, a big uptick in companies using carbon offsetting. What does that tell us about the direction of travel and why they're choosing to use it?
We saw this starting already around Paris, where more and more companies started committing to net zero targets. And that really has accelerated towards the Glasgow COP, where the UN Race to Zero campaign was launched, and I think we have now close to 3,000 companies signed up to that. So these are companies who've set science-aligned net zero decarbonising pathways, and that's a very serious commitment.
Carbon offsetting is, for some, I think, still controversial, and there is debate around the integrity of carbon credits. Where do you see that debate moving in the future?
There are a number of really high-profile initiatives that are currently underway. First, on the supply side, it's called the Integrity Council for the Voluntary Carbon Market. And what they are doing is setting the core carbon principles for what makes a carbon credit a high-integrity carbon credit. So it's sort of the production of that credit. On the demand side, we're looking at what claims can companies make who've used carbon credits within their net zero strategy.
Accreditation is obviously part of the solution that you're talking about. Talk to us about the main accreditations and what those mean.
So the first accreditation I actually want to reference is one that already exists in the market and has been around for over a decade, which is the ICROA Accreditation. Now, the ICROA accreditation is there for service providers or intermediaries in the carbon market. So they are the people that are buying high-quality carbon credits, advising companies on the rightful use of those carbon credits, and selling the carbon credits to the buyers. When it comes to the Integrity Council for the Voluntary Carbon Market, they're developing the core carbon principles. And the idea there is the crediting programs, the programs that set the standards and the methodologies for carbon projects, they will become accredited against these core carbon principles. And then the Voluntary Carbon Market Integrity Initiative fits in as a set of guidelines, and companies will be able to follow those guidelines to identify whether the claims that they're making are robust.
Carbon offsetting, is it helping us to make progress towards the end goal, or is there still work to do?
We have these initiatives, we have these checks and balances that are coming into the system. What that should unleash, if everything goes to plan, is a lot more finance into the market. Because if you can trust the market, if you know the money that you invest in is without doubt going to carbon reduction, carbon removal, and supporting communities, supporting biodiversity, then that's a market you want to be involved in.